The air was rigid and stale that day, the day in which a master took his own student's life. Blood trickled the silver-haired hero's hands as he held his top disciple by his arms, hugging the young man as tears fell from his watery eyes. "Garou, why have you followed the wrong path?" Bang angrily cried out as he looked towards his broken and dead disciple, the only one that he took in more than as a pupil, but as a son. "Why?" he said once again, no longer with anger nor hatred, but with sadness and sorrow. "Stupid disciple, you were supposed to be the one to outlive me, not the other way around. But now, I still could not understand why. Why did you want to become a monster?" Clenching his fists, Bang reminisced his time with the young man in his arms, wanting to remember when did it all go wrong. "That's enough now, Ototo. That's the path he took. We couldn't have known why." Putting his hand on his little brother's shoulder, Bomb kneeled towards Bang as he gestured it's time to go. "There is nothing we could do anymore." With great pain in his heart, Bang slowly lowered Garou's body on the ground as he closed his disciple's eyes, letting go of the boy he took in more than as a student, but as his son. "Bang, Bomb. Be ready, something is heading our way. Might be more of those monsters, because I'm sensing a huge moving force coming our way," Genos said as he took his stance, but unbeknownst by them, it was more than just an army, for it's only one. Centauro, a bird-like monster, yelled as a huge centipede popped out the ground, surprising the three S-class heroes. "I may have failed to come here in time, but I won't let any of you leave with your lives. Because if I do, Orochi will kill me," Phoenix Man said to himself as he's pissed on how late he was to capture the hero hunter. With Elder Centipede now above, the High Dragon threat immediately rushed the three, causing great destruction throughout the area, as well as collapsing the earth below the now-dead hunter. Bomb and Genos went and took all the A-class heroes that were incapacitated. For Bang, he tried to reach Garou's body, but was already too late as the ground below took him in, never to be seen again. Currently, at the UA Sports Festival, two students are having a battle of will and strength. Midoria and Todoroki are at their wits' end, but both different. With Midoria having exhausted most of his fingers to use one for all, along with his stamina beginning to waver, he now has no choice but to force himself for one last time. May it take a great toll with his body, he will risk it. For he had awakened something far terrifying than him breaking himself with the quirk passed down to him. He awakened something inside of Todoroki, a reason why he wanted to become a hero. Making the half and half teen wake up to reason as he readied to use his left side. Both smiled, for this will be their final attack on each other, even earning silent laughs on both sides. As they sharpen their senses, with only a second of breath, Todoroki is the first to move as he blasted ice towards Midoria. At the same time, the green-haired boy flicked once again one of his already broken fingers to deflect the attack. As a strong wind pressure was produced with one flick of a finger, so did it worsen the discoloration and vitality of it. Midoria flinched with pain as he tore himself more and more, but he knew that wasn't the last. As he had deflected Todoroki's blast of ice, then came the second, a fire blast so powerful that for Midoria to negate it, he needed to use his entire arm to punch through it. The power the two unleashed was far too strong for them to possibly endure and stay alive after it. That Cementos was forced to intervene as he made several walls of thick concrete that pop out inside the stadium, lowering the possible damage it'll cost. As the two forces hit each other, a huge blast of smoke irradiated from the concluding blast, as all that watched hold their breaths for the outcome of the two. There they saw something they could not believe. Midoria was still standing on his feet as his two arms flail along by gravity. Todoroki, on the other hand, was exhausted as he looked in shock towards Midoria. He did not expect to see his opponent still standing inside the stadium, as he put all that he got with that attack. But he knows it won't take much more to put Midoria down, so he expected him to fall down and surrender, to know when he's beat. Yet unbeknownst by many of them, this was no longer the case. "Give up, Midoria. Both of us know you won't last any further than this," Todoroki yelled towards the green-haired boy as he waited for a response. Nothing. There was literal nothingness that came out of the boy as he just stood there with his head pointed at the floor. "So it is decided then," Todoroki said to himself as he then again used his ice to finally defeat Midoria, to knock him off the stadium. With a flick of his wrist, ice formed twice as big as a grown man as it went towards the green-haired boy. But to everyone's surprise, they could have not believed their eyes on what happened next. The ice was split perfectly in half as the boy is suddenly in a stance that even All Might did not expect to see. Midoriya looked as if he was in a martial artist stance, where his left arm went straight as his right tucked inwards his waist, along with his body lowered. Everyone was surprised at such a revelation, but none could understand how he did such a feat with a bruised and broken body. Inside Midoriya's body, the very essence of the boy is now gone, as a new one took its place. On instinct, the boy's body moved to block the attack that came with such precision and accuracy, making it hard to believe for the audience, seeing him with a battered state. What they don't know, though, is the one that took his place was a monster beyond their wildest dreams. Garou awakened from the blast of ice he sliced in half. "You bastards!" Garou sneered as he woke up in pain with his body slowly, making his stance grow fiercer on instinct. He's pissed, very pissed for whatever the fuck was happening. His eyes blurred as his senses took over, as well as his mind cursing and cursing, for he could not remember much on what happened for him to be in such a place, to be in such a predicament, to be attacked by a monster he does not recall facing. That geezer, he thought to himself, but does not remember much on why. For a time being at least, but for now, he's filled with rage. "Die!" He yelled once more with gruesome ferocity in his tone as he launched himself towards Todoroki. This, causing the teen to stagger for a moment. He could feel it, the change in atmosphere, a fear that's slowly creeping up subconsciously towards the half-and-half hero. Todoroki's control over his body was overwritten as his instincts took over to counter again with ice along with his left side to attack, once more out of retaliation. Todoroki does not know why, but the feeling he was having at that exact moment Midoriya rushed towards him. It felt like he needed to protect himself at all cost, or he'll die. As his counterattack went almost a centimeter at Garou's face, he spun himself at inhumane speeds, dodging the attack altogether as he closed in Todoroki, saying the following words that Shoto will never forget. "Ryuswigen-seiken." Water stream rock smashing fist. With his eyes not even registering the speed of his assailant's attack, Todoroki's entire being was brutalized as seeming blue streams of flurrying attacks were sent all over his body. He could not even retaliate as the force and speed the beating he's getting was going faster and stronger by the moment as his body floated up a foot in the air. His bones breaking as audible cracks were heard throughout the stadium, his flesh slowly tearing as his muscles and organs screamed in pain. Todoroki can't take it much longer as his mind slowly numbs and close into shutting down, along with his body, still floating in the air by the ferocity of Garou's attack. "I'll die," Todoroki said to himself as he lost consciousness from the ever-unending blows he's witnessing. The majority of the audience gasped in horror as a few of them rushed in to save the young boy, getting his flesh ripped out by what they could only summarize as a villain monster. Cementos and Midnight rushed as fast as they could, but was taken aback as Endeavor intervened. Rage is what radiated out of him as he shot an arrow-like projectile of searing heat towards the boy who's currently beating the life out of his son. "Shoto!" He screamed as he feared for the life of his son. As the approaching arrow of flame came close to Garou, with an inhumane turn, he kneed the ever-living hell out of Endeavor's attack, making it explode as the knockback of it was enough for him to be sent towards the near wall. Garou sneered once more as he felt the entire force of Endeavor's attack. All that was present that day was even more shaken at what happened, more so with Endeavor. That green-haired kid just kneeled the entire force of one of his powerful attacks, Kaku, Shakunekin Jetaban, Flashfire Fist Jet Burn. "Impossible!" Endeavor exclaimed as his gaze hardened at the boy that brutalized his son. The number 2 hero was pissed as he ran towards his son, checking for vital signs as he gazed in anger towards the green-haired boy. "Rah-ha-ha!" Garou roared as he slowly crept out of the wall like a demon coming out of hell's door. Midoriya's classmates alongside the other heroes watching, tensed as they felt chills all over their bodies. Garou's left knee was scorched as his hands now clear with the blood of his opponent's broken and battered body. "Midoriya, stop this now." All Might yelled as he arrived after Endeavor, his eyes focused as his fists clenched. Everyone felt it. Two of the top heroes of their world will be fighting a child. But can he even be called a child? Garou dropped himself towards the edge of the stadium as he cleared his eyesight. He looked around, surprising him as his mind instantly realized that he's now in front of a crap ton of heroes. He has no words as his eyesight turned once more at the two bulging heroes in front of. Endeavor, wait. All Might said as Endeavor dashed in with tremendous speed, throwing a punch imbued with hell flame, his quirk. But within a hair's reach, Endeavor could not believe what he was seeing. Garou moved his head with little to no effort from his attack, then proceeding to counter with a punch straight to his face along with a barrage of blue-streamed attacks, only ending with a kick in his stomach. Endeavor was sent flying back towards the other end of the stadium. He could not believe it, even more so than All Might. Endeavor kneeled as the forces of the counterattack he endured were beyond his imagination. When Garou countered him, he felt not just the force of the teen's punch, but also his own throughout the entirety of the barrage. Damn you! Endeavor cursed as he got back up again, only to fall down once more. What the hell? He internally screamed as his legs refused to stand and his body aching in pain, asking for him to stop. Is that all you've got? Garou provoked the man as he took his stance. All that watch was just in complete shock as they didn't know what to do. All Might, on the other hand, had enough and decided to put an end to all of this. I'm sorry, Midoria, but you left me with no choice. We'll have a long talk after all of this, he said to himself as he vanished from the eyes of those that were watching in shock. With one loud bang, they only saw All Might at the spot where Garou was before, only for All Might to vanish once again. Now with a loud boom from the skies above, then came a boy smashing down the center of the stadium. All Might dropped near, but he was not smiling, nor was he letting his stance down. He was in shock as slowly the people saw his figure. Bruises were seen throughout his body, as well as his right arm having these perfectly circular incisions, slicing his skin as it bled. He was dumbfounded on what his student was capable of, but more on what's happening to him. Coming out from the ground, he was thrown in. Midoriya's body bled more and more as Garou pushed it through its very limits. Garou did not expect the damage he took just by getting hit by the hero in front of him. It was far greater than what he had faced before. Garou's blood now flowing through his entire body, enraging him as he smiled at his new prey, but sadly, it was not meant to be. The other heroes, now out of their shock, went straight towards him as they slowly came in by the 100s. Garou was about to be overwhelmed. No matter how much his blood is flowing for battle, he knows when to back off, as even for him, the number of heroes that are slowly coming in his view is far too many for him to handle. He frowned as his prey will live on another day. Garou then smacked his hands together as he inhaled excess amounts of air, then exhaling it all out as he took a rather different stance from before. He raised his right knee towards his torso as he begun to do some kind of breathing again. With his veins popping up all over his body, Garou exhaled once more as he slammed his foot towards the very ground thereon. Garou slammed the floor with such a force that it didn't just break it entirely, but also sending it all high up in the sky, making the dozens upon dozens of heroes to stop at their tracks. With the rubble now turned as his smokescreen, Garou went on all fours as he moved like an animal through the floating rubble of concrete. His movement cannot be even registered by the eyes that look. With such speed, Garou vanished as the floating rubble begun to fall towards the ground, leaving all dumbfounded on what the hell just happened. How? All Might said under his breath as he could not imagine how and why did all this happen. Somebody please, get an ambulance. Endeavor yelled as he held his son hardly breathing. Father, Todoroki said as he tried to move his arm. Stay with me, Shoto. Don't you dare die on me now. Endeavor cried out as tears begun to fall from his eyes. He was not ready at all to lose his son. Endeavor's cry for help was the very thing that got the other to snap out of their shocks, as heroes begin to call for ambulance as some with quirks that allow healing went towards the father and son. This day will forever be remembered by those that saw, even more by the shadows dwelling in the dark. This day of shock and awe. The day in which a kid named Midoria single-handedly faced against the two top heroes of the world. The day he almost killed a fellow student. The day Garou took over. It's morning now, after the events that occurred during the annual UA High Festival. Many are practically still tense on what happened, shocked for the most, intrigued for those in the shadows. But none of it compared with the reaction it got from the very school that started it. UA High. From teachers, staff, to even the students. None of them have a clue on why and how it happened. The same goes for pretty much all that watched which are connected to the boy. None of them expecting such things to occur, even more so to his closest friends, family mentor. When Midoriya stood, even after taking the blunt force of Todoroki's attack, they were all surprised but expected that it'll end there. They knew that he can't possibly go any further, if his battered state wasn't already enough to guess that. But still, he went through it all. At first, they were amazed, as Midoriya stood and did some kind of martial arts stance, a thing that is seldom seen in today's quirk-filled society. But still, they knew that the kid won't last any further than this. It was fun and thrilling when it lasted, but one should know one's own limits by now. This was true even for those in the stands, more so with those watching on TV, or more particularly, a mother watching her son. A heart attack was slowly creeping in Inko's heart as she can't do anything to save her child, for this was practically what he wanted. That's what she got from the boy as glimmers of hope shined through his eyes back, then when he told her that he wants to be a hero. Still, she could not bear to watch as her son gets beaten live for everyone to see. Her motherly instincts just wouldn't allow it. "Izuku, my baby, please just yield already." Inko yelled her thoughts at the TV screen, as if her words might be able to reach her boy. "Please, you've already done enough. I beg of you." She cried as she was basically forced to watch on what will happen to her son. These kinds of things are what she meant to the boy, something that a mother would not like to see, something that can dishearten oneself. To see one's own flesh and blood be beaten and broken. She couldn't take it, but there is nothing she could do. Her son was at his wit's end, but the face he gave said otherwise. That was the truth at first, but when the other boy that he's faced with begun to use his other side. Inko's heart stopped as a gigantic blast of searing heat was produced, and it was directed exactly towards Izuku. She bit her fingers as tears and cold sweat flowed out of her body. Inko couldn't take it anymore. "Please, I beg you, stop," she yelled, but to no avail. When the act was done and smoke covered the stadium, everyone was shocked at such destruction that was made by these kids, but it was only when the smoke cleared that they started to clear their throats. Midoriya was still standing, even after such an attack, but it was clear that he couldn't possibly be able to move any longer, as his body took a considerable amount of damage. Inko's eyes just widened as she saw her son's state. No, 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 no. My baby boy, no. She thought it would be over and the match would have already stopped there, but she was wrong as her son stood. "No more, Izuku. No more." With half a minute passing by, they all knew that the kid can't go on any further and he should just yield and concede. He already did good and is worthy to be a hero, but to force oneself. "Young Midoriya, it's time to stand down. You already did well," All Might said as a mixture of pride and sadness was spiraling out of him. After a couple more seconds passed, the match was still going on, and it seems that Midoriya won't fall and concede, so there was nothing Todoroki could do but to push him off the arena. To finish it all, for there was no more point to it. He already won. With a flick of his right hand, he attacked for the last time. Literally. The audience of the bout could only gasp at what happened next, earning cold sweats and an everlasting impression of what kind of a person is this green-haired boy. "You bastards!" he screamed as he sliced perfectly in half, the attack that was meant to end the match. The atmosphere on that point on was something that no one would like to feel ever again. Death. Death was what it screamed as it radiated out of the green-haired boy. It was not the same at that point on. Everyone's eyes just kept on widening and widening as the shock and awe kept on increasing and increasing. The boy was no longer the same person they saw and knew. He was a monster. With the shocking revelation and the ever blood-curdling event that occurred, the boy known as Izuku Midoriya became something that went beyond the odds, even going to the point of disapproving reality itself, the reality of one's own limits. On Inko's view as her son almost murdered the other boy he was fighting with, she felt the tightening of her heart more and more. Her emotions, feelings, and thoughts were conflicted as the sight of her son becoming a murderer slowly crept in her mind. This isn't the young boy she raised. This isn't the same boy that smiled with hope. This isn't her boy anymore, and more so when the two top heroes intervened his onslaught of despair. Who are you? With her heart aching each second, as her eyes overflowed with tears. The realization of the boy who was now fighting his favored and loved hero. The realization of the sudden change of self. Inko's mind almost went blank in fear, as her instincts told her that the boy she knew was now gone, and the one in her boy's body is now a heinous and evil man. Silence was the only thing left that came from all of them, starting from his mother along with the friends and acquaintances he made, towards the people that watched in shock. When Garou took over, when he almost killed Shoto, when he fought with Endeavor, and even more so with All Might himself. Just who was he? The boy in green hair, the boy named Midoria, for this point on. He will be remembered in fear. Currently, within the confines of the number one hero's home. What will you do now? Toshinori, a certain old hero asked as the supposed inheritor of One for All is nowhere to be seen. I don't know, but there is something I have to tell you. Sensei, with a heavy heart bearing down on All Might's entire being. This certified the old hero on the gravity of what he's about to say. Young Midoriya, All Might was lost of words at what happened that day, but he knew something far sinister was happening. For on that day, he felt as if the bond of he and Midoriya was severed, the connection they had from One for All. The inheritor of One for All might no longer be with us. Sensei, Sir Gran Torino, the bond between One for All has been severed. No, but how? With a shocked face, Gran Torino questioned the absurdity of what All Might said. I felt it. It was like a sudden burst of energy that just went back towards me. My strength, my vitality, everything was hurtled back towards me. All Might scorned it as his mind could only think of one reason for the sudden increase of his feats once again. That boy with the green hair. The one that fought not just me, but Endeavor as well in what looks to be with ease. He is no longer Izuku Midoriya. I'm afraid it's someone else, and the only person that I could think of being responsible for this is him. With anger and frustration seeping out of the number one hero, he clenched his fist as the thought of All for One, etching at his mind again, made him enrage. Gran Torino could only be dumbfounded as the mere thought of an ancient evil that's still alive. Fear begun to run through the old hero's core, as the distant memories of that evil were still prevalent within his mind. Impossible. I know, but with the turn of events that happened, even earlier on, it all just points out with him. There are no other persons than a selected few that know about One for All, and that includes him. All Might responded about the possibility of the impossible. With rather unsettling conjunction, Gran Torino doubted the thought, but was terrified of it still. Hey now, let's not get rash here with conclusions all of the sudden. If it is him, then how come One for All made it back to you? We know he is the very reason that One for All exists, but isn't just counterproductive to let it all go back to you? If All for One is still alive, something like this is completely out of character for him, is it not? That is true. If that ancient evil did take back the quirk he has given long ago, he would not let it go back towards All Might. But that's not the case at this point in time. I could agree to that. With a slight nod, All Might have agreed to that fact. But I do think that we should look more in depth about this, for he at the same time is that hard to get. He's cunning, and I think that this is all part of his plan. Starting from USJ. USJ? Ah, you told me about that not long ago. So what of it? Is it about that Nomu person and the League of Villains? How do they connect with All for One? Gran Torino questioned, for he doubted that such outlandish and out-of-the-blue moves like the attack on USJ was All for One's plan. No, he's far too smart and collective when he moves. So I doubt that he planned such a stupid ploy. Gran Torino almost got it all right, but he's missing a few more information. For it was not really his plan, but it's his successor's, Shigaraki's. He's just basically letting the boy make do with what he has been given, so that his successor will learn. That's the plan at least. With that, All Might started to say about the topic. Yes, starting from that Nomo. I just got the news from Naomeso about him, or should I say, about it. Gran Torino was perplexed about that statement, so he questioned, what do you mean by it? All Might clarified with the following statements. That thing was once human, but its genetic structure was manipulated heavily. Having multiple DNAs of other people that went missing without a trace, then having their own quirks. That's just impossible, even with getting other people's DNA. The process of passing down quirks like that has not even been successfully done. Even our current scientists all around the globe have yet to do such feat. Hell, even Endeavor heavily invested in such, just to match you. But it was said that every attempt failed. Gran Torino interjected. And that's basically it. If even in today's quirk-filled society, where science has advanced the same as quirks, if even with all the knowledge we have in our world today, has not even come up of a successful way to pass down quirks using genetic engineering, like passing one's DNA to another, who do you think is able that can do such a thing? To give multiple quirks on one being, and to take it as well on a breath's notice. Gran Torino kept quiet as the realization sets in. All Might was right about that. There is only one person that could do such feats like that. Seeing his sensei's silence as his answer, All Might started to conclude his point. It's all for one, no matter how we look into it. With a bit of heaviness on the old hero's tone, he asked about the other part. Then if that's so, how about the League of Villains? What do those fools have that correlates with him? Now about the League of Villains. It is currently in control by a self-destructive and unstable kid known as Shigaraki. There are no known documents of the kid, but as far as we know, he is the one that's supposed to be in control of the League of Villains. All Might stopped as Gran Torino added his thought. So a kid controls it, Humph. But we know that isn't true because how could just a kid like that be able to achieve such things without help? Exactly. To have the resources to create and make do to beings like that Nomu, to have other villains come with him, no matter how unstable he is. Those are exactly my point, Sensei, that it all leads to all for one himself. With a grim look and a deep sigh, Gran Torino could only accept the reasoning of it. TSK, then what about their connection with that kid? Midoria, was it? Why take him at that point, and how did they know that he's your supposed successor? A good question, which needed to be answered. That's the thing. It isn't far-fetched, but I assume that the League of Villains, or All for One to be exact, got himself a few persons he trusts that may have a telepathic quirk that enables them to know about the secrets of One for All inside young Midoriya's head, allowing them to know that he's the next successor. That, and another is having a subordinate with a quirk that's capable of either changing one's being or mind control, which led to them taking young Midoriya's body. Yes, that could be considered, but there is another thing that bothers me, Toshinori. With a bit of rasp in the old hero's voice, he raised his index finger signifying one major problem with All Might's statement. What is it? All Might asked. I get it. That mind control isn't far-fetched, same as telepathic quirks. But that doesn't answer the fact that the kid just handed it with the two of you. There must be more than that, don't you think? I don't want to doubt you, Toshinori, but if you said that you felt like your vitality went back up and the bonds between you and that kid have been severed, then how the hell is he able to not just fight one of the top 10 heroes here, but to also go toe-to-toe with you? With that, All Might could just touch his temple as he tries to find an answer for his sensei's question. But, think as he may, it's sadly not possible to think of how, having only speculations as answers with very little information. All Might could only bow his head in disappointment, not having an answer. You're right about that, Sensei, but as it stands now, I don't have a clue on how that person made do with young Midoriya's body, on how he was able to fight us off, even with such a state. Clenching his fist, the number one hero swears to find out how and why such a thing was possible. Shame then. Hey Toshinori, could you tell me more on what happened when you two fought? You said that he almost took you two on easily. What do you mean by that? Gran Torino asked to know the full extent of the kid's prowess. First off, just to be clear, I don't know how young Midoriya's body could do such feats, but I do know it's not because of One for All. When Endeavor made his move, Mido no villain, monster, took him out with such skill that you wouldn't believe your eyes. Even more so if you get a chance to face off with him. It still shakes me to my inner core, those movements he did, and with a speed comparable as of my own, and the form of strength it dished out. Even with One for All, I'm sure such a thing is not possible, and I'm more than confident that young Midoriya does not have the skill set to do such feats. In all honesty, that is true. Midoriya's body was already beyond its limits when Garou took over at the same time, his body having already been beaten and battered by not just Endeavor's initial blast, but also with All Might's interjection towards him. It's strange that when Garou was now in control, all of it just seems to not matter. Is it possible that Midoriya's body itself is changing like Garou's? Time will tell. Anyway, digressing back with All Might's hefty words on the topic. But that's not the thing that really bothers me, Sensei. With great dread in his tone, Gran Torino could clearly hear and see the severity of All Might's situation when he fought with Midoriya. Spit it out, then Toshinori. Tell me, so that burden of yours might lessen. Nothing like a talk can help with that. With a forced smile, the old hero wanted All Might to lighten up for a bit, even if it's just a little. Losing one's successor was already hard, but something worse than that. It's worrying, to say the least. Thank you, Sensei. To get it straight with you, what bothers me is when I first made my move towards young Midoriya. It was at that point onwards, my whole being refused to believe something so outlandish. All Might shouted his frustration, only to correct himself back, for such a reaction won't help to further his thoughts towards his sensei. What is it then? Gran Torino asked with worry on his face. He let me punch him. I know it might seem to be full of CR*P, but if it were you, I know you'll understand why. It's like he was observing me like prey, as my instincts just went wild at that point on, until we reached towards the sky with our exchange of blows. With a gulp, All Might continued to express his experience fighting with Midoriya. Many did not see it, for at that point, I was already reaching beyond 100%. But to put it bluntly, I was already going farther beyond what the eye could see, but his speed, his reactions, his tendency, his attacks. No, more particularly, his counterattacks were ungodly. Not to mention the combination of such techniques and skill. It must have only taken him a couple of more hits from me to memorize my moves. And that was all done subconsciously by him. All Might shouted once more, as the absurdity of it all wouldn't allow any other reactions to come out of him. What? The old hero was shocked and baffled by the last statement that his stupid disciple said. What do you mean subconsciously? Are you going senile just like me? Such a thing is not possible, especially from a quirkless boy, is he not? All Might could only nod as he continued, I agree, but all the answer that I could give you is the same that I said earlier. If you were their sensei, even you would say what I have said. The last punch that I have thrown against him proves it. Reminiscing back at it, All Might's stomach could only churn as he reminds himself of what he saw. That final blow was supposed to get me an upper hand, putting all my effort into it, to stop the fight as soon as possible. All Might's right arm began to shake as he continued. It's because the feeling of it continuing further than it already had. It scares me. Gran Torino could only open his eyes wide on what All Might said. Him? Scared? Impossible. For the first time in ages since he was defeated, I felt fear. It's like I was fighting neither a person nor a villain, but a monster of all things. But the fact that my entire being wanted to stop it on that point on does not lie. With a heavy sigh, All Might looked straight in the eyes of his sensei, sharpening as the seriousness of it became more and more apparent than it already is. It felt like he can and will surpass me at that point if I didn't end it there, but he knew what I was planning to do. I saw him as he took in more air towards his lungs as I swung my right fist towards his being. On that point on, his eyes said it all. As he breathed out the air he took in, with a fluid motion, he deliberately met his own fist with mine. And this is the damage it has done. Taking off the bandage on his right arm, Gran Torino gawked at the sight of such a wound. How is that possible? The old hero asked in bewilderment. I don't know, but it must be that person that took young Midoriya's body. He might also have a quirk that allows him to carry it towards Midoriya, but it's the speed, the strength, the skill, and most importantly, the technique he did which troubles me the most. And this is the proof of it. Raising his right arm as the bandages slowly fall down the floor. An almost perfect spiral of torn flesh ran from All Might's fingertips towards his shoulder. It'll heal, but Recovery Girl told me that the incisions it has caused, with such intricacies, and the precision and accuracy of this wound. She couldn't believe that it has even almost reached the bone of my arm. All Might snickered with an ever-present cold sweat on what Recovery Girl stated to him. Terrifying. Are you sure this is still a kid? Even though brainwash, or whatever it may be. It's just not possible. He's like a monster, is he not? Gran Torino asked out of compulsion as the thought of such a quirkless kid was able to do such a thing. Brainwashed or not, it's just too unworldly to comprehend. With a sigh, All Might could only furrow as he has no more to say about the topic. Such turn of events was already too much for him, but to further analyze it more. It's just absurd and impossible for such a thing to happen, but the reality of it all has already shown itself towards him. He can no longer deny that fact. As Gran Torino finally cooled off, he asked of All Might once again, "What now, Tashinori? What will you do? Or more particularly, what are we supposed to do with all of this?" All Might pinch his temple as reminiscence again about certain things connected with Midoria, one for all and all for one. For as he said once to the green-haired boy, only when he fully accepts the power of one for all shall it be granted to his being, but if he did not, then it could only mean one thing. The ties that were knotted between them with one for all were no longer connected. And the only one capable is that person in the shadows. All for one. All Might scorned once more that the ancient evil in the dark was the reason for all of this. If there is one thing that's certain, Sensei, I'll save young Midoriya. No matter what. You can count on it. With that, All Might stood as he looked onwards to UA High, while Gran Torino's expression eased a bit. To see him like this once again. No matter what, Tashinori, I'll be there for you, and with you always. As I promised on that day so long ago. On another place, though, at the Mosudafu General Hospital, Shoto Todoroki's brother and sister have currently visited. Will he survive? Shoto's sister, Fuyumi Todoroki, asked the doc about his condition. The doctor was old, and although being in such a state of age, he's far above with experience and skill compared to the normal quirk given doctors of today. The ashen-haired doc then took in some air and out as with a bit of hesitation, he answered the question given to him truthfully. "Dear, all I could say is that your brother barely survived the ordeal he had undertaken. And to be honest with you, I'm afraid that the level of brutality the young lad has taken is far more than what we could have expected." "What do you mean?" Shoto's brother, Natsuo Todoroki, was the one to ask with great fear and stress in his voice. "The state of his body when we first looked at it. We weren't able to use much of any healing-related quirk on him straight away. Take Recovery Girl as an example. She has the best possible quirk to be used with these kinds of injuries, but even with her along with us, we cannot just use it without precautions." The doc gave emphasis on precautions as to entail its importance. "We looked first at his state, and as we looked, some of my newer colleagues were willing to just wait for the boy to heal by normal means. If it were just broken bones and a few tears here and there, they can just cover it up and do the basic procedures with such injuries. It was already common for heroes to be hurt, so it's normal for them to act as so. And after all, that, when he's ready, Recovery Girl will do the rest. But those are fool's thoughts, which is why I reprimand all of them." With a flick of a finger, the doctor then showed a rather unsettling image for them to see. The bones of Shoto's body, its state, its form, then came his flesh. If seeing the outer wounds was already bad enough, then came the inner ones, which were the worst of it. As you all can see, those fools failed to visualize just how grievous was young Shoto's state. Really, having a mindset of quirks doing all the job is just foolish. They don't make doctors of my caliber anymore. The doc could only furrow his brows on that thought. Anyhow, the damage his body took was a nightmare to see. Mr. Endeavor told me about the incident that happened, about the brutality and barbarity of what young Shoto had endured. But the more I look at it, the more it cleared to be less of that. "What do you mean, Doc? Isn't this just as he said? I mean, look at him. Look at my little brother. This is nothing less than barbarity, is it not?" Natsuo angrily said. "To you, boy, it is. But to me, it isn't." The doc cleared. "Stop being cryptic and just tell us already," Fuyumi demanded, not wanting the conversation to sway out of the main point. "Don't worry, I was getting to that. Ahem. So, let's start with the injuries young Shoto has undertaken. First off, all of the outer injuries present isn't just done without thought, though the brutality and severity are also present with it. The way it's been dished out to the lad isn't. To clear things, I mean that each blow was calculated, precise, and deliberate, which is very concerning." "What do you mean by that?" the two questioned. "Looking at the outer side of the injury, we can't really see much of what I meant. But if we look deeper, the doc then changes the visualized image he created to see the inner wounds of Shoto. Let's start with this first. The doc pointed out the major muscles of Shoto. The tissues along with all these muscles are torn, but not in a way we could have expected. Unlike with normal bruises, punctures, and incisions that may come from combat, these wounds are far more than that. He then specified more on the upper torso muscles of Shoto. Taking an in-depth look at his body, it's clear that most of the damage is allocated toward young Shoto's upper body parts. But the main concern we should look at is how much it has been wounded. This might sound crazy, but the way young Shoto was beaten is beyond anything that I have seen through all my years of experience in this matter. All that I can say is that his muscles were beaten to the point that even with the most potent anesthesia in the world that has been injected for the young lad's sake, even that is ineffective. It's like the barrage of attacks that was done unto him was meant to not just maim, but to also cause pain in a way that even with the slightest of touches, it'll start to hurt like hell. That's just what? Just how? Natsuo asked in confusion. Let's just say that it must be the effects of the quirk of his assailant. Even unconscious, young Shoto's body still reacted to the pain of the surgery we did, even with anesthesia. It was troublesome, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of young Shoto's predicament. The two gulped at what the doc's mouth spewed out. Those were just the pectoral muscles. How about his other ones? The doc then proceeded to show the state of Shoto's arms. I do say, though, it's a miracle that he endured this much, and to be honest, young Shoto would really become a great hero one day because of this. The two siblings were then shocked when they saw it. If it isn't with his quick thinking and instincts that helped him survive such massacre of an assault, he wouldn't be breathing here. The doc continued. To answer a probable question you two would ask, no, I'm afraid that it might take years for it to fully heal. Even with the help of Recovery Girl, the tendons that connect with the muscles, the nerve endings towards his arms to hand, its bones. We were forced in a corner to do this, but it's needed to be done. The doc then carefully showed Shoto's bare arms. When the two got a clearer look at it, Shoto's sister almost vomited as she tried to gasp for air, while his brother stood still as cold sweat dripped down from him. To see such things, the way their little brother's arms were twisted and angled in forms too gruesome to state, as most of its bones were broken and smashed, while some even pierced the inside out of his skin. Stop, please. We can't, doc. Natsuo was the only one capable to talk between the two, as Fuyumi could only close her eyes as it teared up from such a sight, along with her heart increasing its beats from the shock and anxiety it caused. I know it's hard to look at, but you two need to know. The doc then pointed Shoto's hands. You two can clearly see it, right? Even when he was beaten to near death, he still managed to use his quirk to shield some of the damage, even if it caused his arms. He tried his best until the end, just to stay alive. And if you two are already disheartened by this, what more if we continue? Your brother here needs both of you to be strong for him. I may be just a doc, but if there is one thing that I know, people that experience things like this will need their family the most. Doc made it clear for the two, and judging by his expression, he looks as if he knows the horror of such things to happen with people in this condition. The two siblings could only move their emotions aside, for the doc was right. They need to be strong and to be there with their young brother. Seeing the two's reaction, the doc fixed himself for a bit, then continued. Ahem. Sorry for the small sermon, but if all things are considered, you two should be ready for the next things that I'll show you. The more that I'm able to explain to you two about his condition, the better it is for his long-term recovery. For each information is vital because strict guidelines should be followed concerning his health after his discharge of the hospital. Plus, one thing is certain, he'll likely have PTSD once he recovered, so better to listen well. The two nodded with a newfound conviction for their youngest brother. Doc, we understood now, but why only the two of us? Though he's too hard of a father, Endeavor should also be informed of this, is he not? Fuyumi was the one to ask, wanting to know why it's only them. To answer that, I have already gone and talked with Mr. Todoroki about this. Let's just say that I'm more at ease with you two taking care of young Shoto. As for Mr. Number 2 hero though, I can't say much, but he went furious and I think you two should know what happened next, right? Yes, both of them confirmed. Great. Now that's out of the way, let's get back to what I was saying earlier. I have now shown you two about your brother's condition on the outside of things. The inside, though, just be ready. The doc then changes the image he created once again, changing the image to see just the tendons, nerves, and bones of Shoto. If the eyes of the two siblings were already widened enough from earlier, now it's more so. God help our brother, Natsuo said under his breath. It's brutal, yes, but it's also done with deliberation and precision. The doc then pointed out the joints and tendons along with it. As we can see here, each attack, though on the outside looks animalistic and all over, but on the inside, this is where we could see just what kind of master combatant he fought with. No way. But how? Isn't he just a kid, the same as Shoto? There is no way that this is possible. Natsuo exclaimed his thoughts. We know. Along with some kind of a quirk to render such pain that lasts till the end, this one took the cake. It's already scary to know that this was done by a kid the same as young Shoto, but to actually see his work. It's beyond us, along with the same kid fighting with the two top heroes the world has ever seen. The doc then sat for a moment as he pinched his temple. All of it is deliberate. All of the strikes that were done were pinpointed most on those critical joints and tendons that allow movement and overall locomotion. Not just that, though, but if we are to look at the nerves and bones, it's just unthinkable that this is even possible. Young Shoto's nerve path that connected with his sense of touch was all severed as the other nerve endings swelled from the damage. Then came his bones. Most shattered like glass, some pulverized. With a deep breath, the doc stood once more as he changes the image once again. All in all, this will undoubtedly cause severe trauma, stress, fear, insanity, and many more symptoms. It's almost the same as those back in my day when I was in the field. War against terror and such. Soldiers that got captured and tortured, then saved and sent to me. That's how I think I could compare young Shoto's state. With a breath, the doc could only reminiscence the horror he witnessed those days. All of them were given hell, just like young Shoto, and I'm really afraid for his future. Compared to those soldiers, Shoto is just a kid, a teen to be exact. Things like this, it should not be witnessed to anyone. Then with a wave of his hand, the image which the doc created was then removed from their sights. What will happen now, doc? If it really is this severe, what can we do for Shoto? Fuyumi asked with worry engulfing her heart. Pray for his sake. As of now, he'll need to rest, then when time comes, we'll get Recovery Girl to do the rest. Other than that, just be there with him. Young Shoto will need you both at the end of this. The doc then proceeded to leave the two alone with their youngest brother in bed. At the Bakugo household. Deku. This was the only thought that came out of a certain blonde and combustive teen that day on 4th. Bakugo was in deep thought from all that happened that day. Was it I? He questioned himself as to find out the reason for Midoriya's sudden change of behavior. No, it's impossible. No one could change just like that. Or, Bakugo gritted his teeth as he spat out his toothbrush and then begun to slam his head on the wall. Stop. What the hell are you doing there? Stop it. His mom screamed downstairs as he was basically making a ruckus once again in their home. With a breath, Bakugo calmed himself as he recollected on what happened that day. That was not Deku. I'm sure of it. Then with another breath, Bakugo has now snapped out of his deep thoughts as he stepped on the shower while yelling on the top of his lungs. Die germs. He scrubbed his body tenfold as his mother came busting in the bathroom. I said to fucking stop. What the hell? Get out of here, old smack, finish up and go to school already. Time went on that day as the students from all courses at UA High got the chance to talk about the events that have occurred yesterday, but none of them compared with Class 1A's reaction. Class 1A is usually full of noise and an ever-engaging happy atmosphere for most of its time in UA High, but today isn't one of those days. Like entering a funeral, that's exactly the case today. As if it isn't bad already because of what happened yesterday, then came the news on one of their companions currently residing in Yuzutafu General Hospital. Todoroki, Shoto is currently in a temporary coma because of the stress and shock he was forced to endure, both figuratively and literally. The news of this spread like wildfire as tension and unease skyrocketed within the entire class. Knowing the forces that Midoriya can do with his quirk was scary enough, but to use it relentlessly towards one of their own. They still could not believe it, as the majority of them didn't think Midoriya is capable of such an act. All were practically banging their minds on it and thinking of the possibilities on what could have caused such an uproar within Midoriya's being. When he suddenly turned into this pseudo-villain out of nowhere was shocking enough for all of them, but it was Uraraka, Ida, Tsu, and surprisingly, Bakugo that got affected by this the most. In Uraraka's case, it was when she saw the entirety of the savagery and inhumanity of what Izuku did to Shoto. What's more is that when Deku, the boy she thought she knew, turned into this animalistic beast of rage, this villainous-like embodiment he became, this monster. It felt like daggers were thrown at her heart as the feeling of pain, anxiety, and fear grew in her being. "That's not Deku," Uraraka said softly as her features show off the likes of a saddened and hope-deprived maiden. Her eyes showing nothing but pain from her thoughts all throughout that day as those beside her gently comfort her for what she's currently undergoing. Being by her side along with Tsu, the two heard what Uraraka said as they come and comfort her. "You're right about that, Uraraka. That is not the Deku we knew," Ida said as he put his hand on her shoulders, trying to give a sense of ease to her. "Definitely, Karo." Tsu agreed with the two as she went close to Uraraka, giving all her support. "It must have been the work of a villain, Karo. There is no way that Midoriya could do such a thing," she restated, clearing a bit of Uraraka's unease. "Thank you, Ida-tsu," she softly said. On the other side of the room, though, Bakugo's eyes sharpened like a hawk as his stature while sitting emits this sense of seriousness and irritation, signaling for those that are near to back off as his mind, try as he may, can't keep his thoughts off of Deku as he tried to reason out probably causes on what happened that day. While the entire class was already in hard thoughts about it, none even realized that their homeroom teacher is already inside the classroom. Shocked on suddenly realizing their teacher was already there, the majority of them hurried in their seats as they all greeted the mummified teacher. "Sensei, Eraserhead. Good morning, sir." Seeing their startled state, Aisawa could only gush out a breath, knowing the reason why they're all this tense. "All right, enough of the formalities, all of you. For today we're going to discuss a certain topic that deserves to be taken care of. And before any of you ask, yes, it's about those two, Izuku Midoriya and Shoto Todoroki. So I don't want any of you to talk until I'm done, understood?" With that, the class put all their ears towards their teacher. We'll talk first about Todoroki, for he's the one that we got a lot more information for the time being. With a cough, Aisawa took out a note within his bandages. "Recovery girl gave me this. It says here that Shoto Todoroki is currently in a coma, though it's only partially, and he's expected to gain his consciousness soon, though that's not the important thing we should know about. It already spread like wildfire with that part, but what hasn't yet is this." Aisawa then took another thing out of his bandages. It was a picture this time. "I just expect that all of you to keep a tight lid on this, for I'm only doing this because all of you deserve to know, being his friend and classmates and all." The mummified hero then showed the picture towards the entire class, showing an image of Todoroki's current state. This is a picture that they're willing to give, just for all of you to see your classmate's state currently. They did that because none of you are allowed to visit him for certain reasons. Other than that, all of you should take a good look and say your prayers afterward. He then gave the picture to the class president, earning him the clear, shocked faces of his students, them realizing the critical state of one of their classmates. After the image was passed through the whole class, then given back to Aisawa, he continued his words for them. "All right then. I know all of you have a lot in mind about that, and probably want me to give more information other than that photo, but judging by all your reactions, I don't think it's best to say most of it. So I'll say the ones that won't put any of you in further stress. Shoto Todoroki isn't just in a critical state, for his doc said to Recovery Girl that he'll be facing far more troubles once he has awoken from his partial comatose state. PTSD of the likes and other conditions that may cause him an episode. With that, the doc also wanted to relay a message to all of you." Aisawa once again took out another note from his person. "To those that may concern about young Shoto Todoroki's state, I, the doc, request upon all of you, his colleagues, classmates, family, and friends, to give mind of his mental health. Physically, we can heal him, but mentally is another. It'll take some time, but as things are right now, young Shoto will heal from these physical injuries he has taken, but with such a brutal state he endured. I'm sorry to inform that he'll most likely be witnessing episodes throughout the following months and likely years. Please, for his sake, take note of his condition. Izuku then ended. You all heard that. Once Todoroki comes back in UA High, special care should be given to him by all of you. That, if he'll still come back here, that is. This shocked all of them. Todoroki, not coming back to UA High? What? Their faces tell it all for the mummified hero. A clear difference in experience that day was shown. I personally doubt that he'll come back, and the reason for it is simple. Once the day that all of you manage to come to witness real pro-hero work, all of you will understand why. Even those that watched that day could tell. Once such a thing like that was to happen to anybody, it's either retirement or death. No average hero would risk it once that kind of brutality were to happen to them. Izuku was pissed when he said this, but it wasn't meant for the students, but for himself. It's a harsh truth with pro-hero life, but they need to know, as well for him to remember the failings of heroes today. It's suicide to keep on going after that, but what makes him tick more of it is that he could have helped that day, but he was too far away and far too mesmerized that moment, that he failed to move immediately to help with subjugating Midoria from his onslaught. No one could blame him though. Even those that were near were not able to react immediately, but it still pisses him off for not being able to. With a breath, Izuku calmed himself as he continued his speech. That's all for now with Todoroki. It's Midoriya's turn. With another breath, he continued. He's currently nowhere to be found. After the distraction he did by destroying the stadium's floor and sending it up in the air with such force, not even a slick of a hint of him was found. With that, all of you might ask about how and why such a thing could have happened that day. In truth, even we don't have an answer for that, but we think that it might be the works of the League of Villains. The League of Villains that send chills down their spines as they recall the USJ incident. Other than that, we have nothing to lead with. The cops are already doing their work on it, and will come to us later this day, so I'll finish this day off for all of you early, but before that. Izuku then signaled someone outside the halls. We were supposed to talk about your hero names and internship with hero agencies across Japan, but because of what happened yesterday, the internships will wait for further notice. The naming on the other hand. Midnight will take care of that today, so pick your hero names wisely. Izuku ended as Midnight took over until the end of the class that day. As the students' school time was ended early, a meeting was organized within UA High. The principal along with a certain detective, the #1 hero, and all the school pro-hero teachers will now have a discussion on the said event that happened a day ago. Ahem. So is everybody here? All Might. Here Eraserhead. Midnight. Here Present Mike. Yo Vladking. Here Cementos. Here then, that's all for the main faculty members. With a cough, Nizu, the school principal raised his hand, then signals everyone to take a seat. Well then, let's get this started, shall we? Before you do that, who's that guy with the trench coat? Eraserhead asked, not knowing who and what may the reason be for the said person to be with them. Oh yes, I'm sorry for not introducing him sooner, but this person here is a representative of the police force given to us. May you introduce yourself to us, good sir? Nizu signaled at the man. Of course. My name is Tsukachi Naomesa. I'm a police detective for most of the time, but now I'm currently a representative of the police force to be with your current conference on a certain matter. Please do take me kindly though. I won't be giving too much unnecessary information to the main police branch, but I will take all the information I could from here to help. Naomesa, or True Man ended. Can we trust you though? Vlad King questioned with doubt in his eyes. Ahem. Don't worry about it, Vlad. I can vouch for him. All Might clarified. Fine, as long as it's you. Vlad accepted. Alright then, let's not get into any more distractions and get to the point. With a clap of his paws, Nizu took all of their attention towards him. We're here today because of what happened at yesterday's events during the school sports festival. Or to be more specific, about a certain boy named Midoria, Izuku. Nizu then opened a projector near him, showing the events that occurred yesterday, then pausing it at the point where Midoria still stood from Todoroki's attack. It's clear that something wrong happened at that time, but the thing is, it's a very unexpected event to occur that we're still jogging out heads on how such a thing happened. So, that's why we have Mr. True Man here to give us a bit of light on what happened when they investigated the scene. Nizu looked at True Man to continue the subject. I'll start then. First off, I would like to also say that we also have minimal information about what happened yesterday, but we did manage to find some probable leads. When the kid, Midoriya, Izuku, turned, we took the liberty to check on the entirety of the stadium, finding as much information we could get on how he became that violent. It was Naomesa's turn to make use of the projector as he showed all the information and footage they gathered from their investigation. We started looking at the sidelines of the stadium towards the nook and crannies of its crevices, then the main area itself. As far as we are concerned, though, there's not much to go by, not even a little to get some clues, so we went towards the records of people that went during the event. He then projected all the persons that came that day. Again, no leads, for all that were there at that time are pro-heroes, no unidentified personnel, no nothing. Some of us even worked for the whole day 24/7 to check the cameras to see anyone suspicious, but to no avail. His face told it all, for he was also one of those that checked through all of it. The exhausted and frustrated look he showed, the tone of his voice. It was clear for them to see. Naomesa coughs for a moment, seeing that their attention was more on his look rather than what he said. This signaled those around him to go back to the subject in mind, giving him the go to continue his say. So that leads us towards those concerning the teen himself. He then showed files about the teen, looking through his files and such, but not much lead was gained. Because of that, we'll be looking to search all those that he has a connection with, starting with his mother. Naomesa then showed the image of Inko Midoriya, showing the mother of Izuku Midoriya for all of them to see. We already gave a call to Miss Midoriya, but we would like one of Izuku's teacher to come with us, and All Might when we go to her household. That was her request, so I wish that one of you will agree. I'll go. Eraserhead took the initiative. It looks like that he too wanted a word with Midoriya's mother. With Eraserhead's response, the detective gave a small bow as he continued. Thank you. Now, about the case again. As I have said earlier, we don't have much information, but we have probable leads. Those are his friends, teachers, and family. Naomesa looked towards each of the teachers in the room, all of them giving him a nod. Great to know that all of you are willing. I'm also here to ask of all your thoughts on what may have happened to make Izuku Midoriya that way. Other than that, we also hypothesize that this might be a work of the same organization that attacked the USJ a few weeks ago, but for now, we aren't entirely sure. So, we're sorry for it being too minimal, but like you guys, we don't have much in a lead with it. No one can blame him with such little information. Even they agreed that it's hard to get a hold on what truly happened that day, on what could have caused such change in one's own. It's all right, detective, you guys did your best. All Might interjected as Naomesa nodded to his words. Yes, it's all right, detective, but now let us give our thoughts with that subject. Anyone want to start first? Nizu looked at the other teachers. Vlad King was the first to volunteer. I don't have much to say on this subject, so sorry. This Midoriya kid is not one of my students, so I don't know the kid that much, but I think Eraserhead might give us some light. That was Eraserhead's cue to really start off the discussion, with a bit of irritation showing from his face. He answered, Fine then. First off, all that I can say about Midoriya is that he's a cry-baby and highly sheepish kid, and with that, all of the persons inside the conference room just blankly blink at what Eraserhead said, until he continued his speech, that is. That's the truth, but Izuku Midoriya is also a hard-working kid. Smart too, at the same time, is a true hero at heart. As for what happened yesterday, even I was surprised by such a thing to happen, and if you ask me, that's not the Izuku Midoriya that I know, and as far as things go, that's an entirely different person. The feeling I got from him at that time was of a villain, and probably far worse than that. All of you here felt it, right? The intent to kill. That final word he gave got the attention of all of them as the memories of what they felt back then hurtled back within their being. He's right on that. I and Cementos also felt it. Being near and all midnight added as during that time, no one couldn't deny it. After all the hero work she has done, same as those that watched. They knew the feeling far too well. We did. That with Endeavor and All Might added. Cementos continued with his thoughts also. How about you, All Might? You're the one that actually got some good hits at him. Did you feel the same as we did? Yes. It's the same as all of you, I'm afraid. Even I, the symbol of peace, did not expect such an experience to come that day. There was no denying it. Along with the intent to kill, when All Might got to exchange blows with Midoriya, Garou. His senses went wild as self-preservation kicked in when they fought, a feeling that won't leave the number one hero anytime soon. Naomasa then added one of his thoughts. I wonder though. Sorry if I asked in advance, but if you two, Midnight and Cementos was there, why didn't you two help with the subjugation of Midoria? This was to be expected, for they are the ones that's supposed to stop things like this to happen, to make sure the safety of the students. We don't mind. I and Cementos actually talked about that, and we're a tad bit ashamed for not interfering. But if it was you to be set on our places, what will you do if two of the most known heroes to date was the one to come and stop them from going further? Add with one yelling on top of his lungs for us to not to interfere along with the thought process of it's just a student. Midnight's answer wasn't fully what Naomasa expected, but it has its truths in it, and to be honest, he might probably do the same, given the circumstances. With nothing to say, the discussion continued. Then that's your answer, but still, we could have done something much earlier, but it took us far too long to snap out of it and help at the end, which still surprised all of us. Such power that came out of the boy's quirk. It really was an experience we won't forget. Midnight ended with a solemn look on her face. Because of the mood it created, All Might took the initiative to change the subject. Enough of that now. I think we have already talked as much concerning young Midoriya. Let's now talk about the damages he did, shall we? Everyone in the room agreed. So how is Todoroki's son doing? Any of you have an idea? Present Mike questioned with concern in his face. For such a thing to happen, will he even come back after all that? The doc said to us that he'll be back to sufficient working order after a few more weeks. As for his condition though, all we could do is hope and pray for the kid's health. The doc really gave importance to that, and judging by the tone of his voice, it's that severe. Naomasa answered. That's true. He even gave a letter. Recovery Girl was the one to give it. Isawa added. With that, Isawa went and gave the letters he got from Recovery Girl concerning about Shoto's health, while Naomasa showed them all the images that the doc gave to him when he asked for the teen's condition. It shocked all of them from seeing such images that it even made them flinch from the brutality of it all. Because of that, they agreed to not see any more of the images given by the doctor as they continued their meeting. Anyhow, it's Endeavor himself that we should take note of rather than his son. Currently, our informants say that he's already taken a permit from the main Brock to start looking for the boy with his own selected team. And as of yesterday, he's been looking all over Japan in search of Midoriya. But what I'm afraid of though is what he'll do to Kid. Naomasa's worry was the same as theirs. If there's anyone they should really be concerned about, it's Endeavor and what he might do to the kid. How about the police? Have they started looking for Midoriya? Vlad asked, wanting to be informed as the rest. As of now, no, we're currently busy with other stuff. It seems that after that event, we have come across an increase in movement of villains. May this just be bad timing, but it's highly likely to be a bad omen that someone is also capitalizing on the event. We assume it's the League of Villains, so it isn't far-fetched that they're doing this to distract us on searching for the kid, which is currently working, I'm afraid. He wouldn't believe how right he is about this, as a certain evil already has his sights on the boy. But for now, they don't know it yet. If that's the case, Detective, how about giving us permission to go look for the boy, the same as Endeavor? We already planned on finding young Midoriya, along with other heroes volunteering to join us, so all we need is the green light from the police to make it official, Nizu suggested. With a smile on his face, Naomasa agreed on the suggestion. All right, after this I'll go straight ahead with the Chief of Command. We'll get on it as soon as possible, I promise. With that, the conference just continued upon agreeing on what to do as soon as they got the permit to search for the teen. From starting on where to start looking, towards countermeasures once they find Midoriya, and a plan after all of it was done. On a rather reminiscing playground near Hosu, a hunter is currently bandaging his wounds as his body ached for any movement he made. That bastard, Garou scorned in his mind as he remembers the relentless pursuit he just endured for this day. I must keep on moving until I heal. Can't fight all of them at once in this state, he said as the memories of his time against Ada-class heroes and 3's class came back little by little. That guy has some firepower in his side, and with that army of his, it makes me even more thrilled to fight them all once I healed. Garou's grin widened as the thought basically restarted his thirst for the hunt of heroes. He smiled once more as he also remembered that other guy with the twin blonde hair. All Might was it? He thought to himself as he relocated his left burned shoulder. A clear indication of what he just encountered during this day. Garou at this point just couldn't contain himself, as the feeling of fighting class heroes just insinuates his desire to grow even stronger than them. To have the advantage as he's nearing his goal to become a true monster, or soon, to become the bearer of absolute unbiased justice. With the sclera of his eyes already turning red, as hints of his hair turning into a slightly more violent shade of green and violet. His senses enhanced as it alerted him about someone on top of the buildings he's near at. Another hunter was looking at its prey as Garou grinned with blood still gushing out of his injuries. No matter what he does, even during that time when he fought with Watchdog Man, then straight up meeting King, the urge to fight, the urge to go beyond his limit, just won't go away. So he stood as he looks behind him, signaling his stalker to show himself. The other hunter could only oblige as his being showed, with a crimson scarf and the face of a killer, adorned with blades used for his killings. He's not a hero, but I don't mind, Garou smugly said as he faced his last opponent for the day. Come at me then, he yelled as an aura of immense pressure radiated out of him. This is interesting. The other hunter smirked as licked the side of his blade. Clearly, he too was excited like Garou. Before that though, name Stain, he said as he already rushed Garou with a knife aimed at him. Surprises, surprises, Garou said in mockery as he deflected Stain's blade, then countering it with a kick towards his stomach, launching the killer back to his spot. Name's Garou. Make this fun for me, will you? Garou smugly said as Stain smiled from such a prey he has encountered. Heh, die. Heh, die was the word Stain spewed out of his mouth, as the ever-present grin of his kept on widening, his being only growing more and more bloodthirsty as he now faced a rather exotic adversary. When was it? The killer questioned himself, a question in which he tried to remember his first, or was it in his most recent of memory? A question of such a feeling he is now undertaking from someone such as the kid in front of him. A feeling in which made his entire body tremble in excitement, thrill, and anticipation, but also with a tint of contempt, angst, doubt. Well, whatever it was, it's unpleasant to say the least. It's strange as the killer puts it. Such a feeling rarely shows for him. But on this day, it was different. The air around the kid was suffocating, as well as the tense glare the kid gave him. With those eyes, sclera of crimson as his pupils amber like the eyes of a wolf, along with the strange scent of danger coming out from the very body of the boy. Again, not many has made Stain to feel this way, but he did not dislike it, not yet at least. For such cases, what does not kill you only makes you stronger. Such an analogy Stain said to himself, for this was one of those cases. The feeling of excitement and uncertainty, a feeling in which Stain knows will undoubtedly give him more. More in a sense that compared to the trash he took care of in the past, this hunt, so to speak, this hunt that's ensuing at the very moment, is and will be different and quite unique compared to the others. That's why the killer could just grin, a grin of joy, but at the same time, a grin of unease. As his blade, now closing in towards the kid in front of him, it was surreal to see that such an expression can come out of the said kid. The expression in his face told it all, an expression of joy, calm, and bloodlust. A very strange kid you are. Stain could only think, as not many would even have the balls nor the nerve to stay calm and enjoy oneself from a killer, such as himself. Still, the boy only waited as he got closer and closer, until he disappeared. Stain didn't even register it, but the boy suddenly disappeared, until the sensation of a rather sharp feeling in his stomach grew stronger as the moment passed by. With a turn of his head downward, the killer could only gawk at the sight as his body, as if delayed, was sent back with such a force. He could have sworn that it was a gust of wind which was the reason for such a push. Close, but not entirely close. With that, Stain only braced himself as the push of wind was enough to send him flying towards a nearby wall. Said wall was also the cushion that stopped his momentum. Pain and the loud cracking of bones and cement was heard. What the hell was that? Stain spurted out as he pulled himself out of the wall, then almost puked out a ton of blood from the blow he took. Is this really all you got? Garou said, but the tone and the way it came out felt like he was disappointed. I thought you would put on a show for me, Stain. I guess you're just like the trash I first envisioned that you are. Heh. Now Garou's tone was mocking. Bastard, Stain said softly as he threw a knife towards Garou, only to be caught in between his fingers. Is that it? Garou said once more, but the killer was no longer there. Escaped, huh? Puss. With a sickening thrust, Garou felt a knife got lunged towards his side. He could only move his eyes as he saw a silhouette of crimson, then another incoming attack, which Garou blocked with both his hands. Said attack was a roundhouse kick from the hero killer himself, Stain. The kick was enough to at least put some distance between the two, but still. You underestimate me, kid, or Garou was it? Stain was the one mocking this time as Garou touched his side. Bleeding again, Garou only looked at his own blood, not showing even a sense of fear or unease from it. Well, just color me surprised. And here I thought that you ran away from me, Garou said as he smiled towards the killer. Truly strange was the thought that came out from Stain. How about this then? Stain said as he licked the blood off the blade he just plunged in Garou. Garou only gave a rather puzzled gaze on what Stain meant until he felt it. Stain only grinned once more as he rushed Garou for another slice of the fun, so to speak. Though, he'd rather not play with this one, said the killer to himself at the back of his mind. And so die, Stain said again as Garou's body was frozen still. Garou was baffled as the feeling of all his being was suddenly stopped. He was bewildered by it, more so as a sense of anger raised from his stupor of unmoving, as a knife with the intent to kill is making its way towards Garou himself. He was angered even more as his body did not want to listen. Damn it, Garou scorned to himself as he braced for the incoming blade to hit him, and it almost did, until memories of a certain boy came once more, memories of torment and despair, memories of the weak being trampled by those in power, memories of a boy that was forced to be the monster of their choosing, memories of having no choice, of having only the clearness of the unfair world that the boy lives in, the memories of a young Garou. With the air changing once more, as the atmosphere begun to feel more and more palpable to the touch. With an inane turn, Stain was left dumbfounded and outright perplexed as a knee went straight towards the hero killer, breaking and shattering the very knife itself, as well as hitting and dislocating the very arm of the crimson-scarfed killer. Stain has no words as all of it was no longer possible to blurt out. Impossible was what came out of the mind of the killer, as Garou smashed not just the blade, but the very arm and body of Stain with his absurd and rather ludicrous of a beast of a knee. Simply to put, Garou kneed the ever-living hell out of Stain, breaking both the weapon and the body of the killer. How? Stain let out with a soft voice. The force that he just took, not to mention the near absurdity of it all. Stain was left only to wonder in his mind, as he could not believe truly on what he had experienced. Fear. Stain could only chuckle a breath at this point. The first and true initial hit he took towards his stomach was already enough to be debilitating, but still he can manage at least another one of it at that point. But to get hit once more, with a rather different and agonizing blow. He could not even fathom where the kid, his prey, or it was supposed to be, to manage and produce such feat. Not to mention the ineffectiveness of his quirk towards the boy. It was unreal as it was unfair at the same time. Again, Stain could only chuckle as Doom looked him in the eyes. He will suffer, that was the last thing that came in Stain's mind, as unknowingly, he might have unleashed a monster from using his quirk on this one. Then again, what's the point anymore? It has been done, as a flurry of blue came towards the body of the killer. Anguish. As time went on, night turned day, as a body gushing crimson red lay on the pavement near a playground within Hosu. Onlookers could only cover their faces in horror as the ambulances came in and the police and heroes alike was petrified from the scene. For a body that was still breathing, but in a condition in which made those in the vicinity ask themselves this very question. Should we put him out of his misery? That very question was not something a hero, a police, even more as an ambulance should ask. But this was brutality beyond their minds. As if the body could even be hardly known, but the fact still remained. It's still breathing, it's still alive. After finally breaking out of their own petrified state, the ambulance hurried and get the stretcher as well as the 4 and blood bags inside their vehicle, the police already clearing away the bystanders that watched, as the heroes investigated the area along with specialists for such courses of action. It took a total of 5 minutes to get the bloodied body inside the ambulance as it hurried its way towards Hosu's General Hospital. Another 5 for the police and heroes in the vicinity to totally close off the area from any and all unrecognized personnel. Just what the hell happened here? One of the heroes said as the others alongside him could only agree in silence. Just what the hell did truly happen there? A question in which could have been solved easily if it weren't manipulated by those in the shadows. The answer that can be found via the nearby CCTVs along the area, but was corrupted by who knows whom, the investigators and specialists said. Truly, what the hell happened there? To find a man soaking in his own blood, his arms bent in a way that could be called as pretzels alongside with his legs, as his upper torso was filled with perfectly circular incisions that could only be described as impossible, in live combat at least. Such a thing isn't normally seen among the injuries of those that went into a fight, so the only conclusion that could be caught from this is that it's caused by the quirk of the assailant. Still, the brutality of it is also quite terrifying. No one should be given such a treatment, even though that someone is a killer himself. This is Stain. The people inside the ambulance yelled as they cleared the face of the man of his own blood. If it were any other man, those inside the ambulance won't even know much, especially if it ain't a hero, but the hero killer's name is still prevalent, more so with them, as they were the ones that usually takes in the victims of the said killer. It's Stain, they said again, dumbfounded and confused, to see the one and only killer himself in such a state. Those inside the ambulance could only scratch their heads as to whom was the killer unlucky enough to face, to be given such a condition. So what do you think? Is it still worth it to recruit such a man? Hirojiri, with a bit of sparse in his voice, the teen with multiple hands along his face could only sigh. Such a waste of effort, is it not? He asked once more, knowing there would be no reply. We're supposed to recruit such a bastard, but look at him go. Inside that ambulance truck, broken and beaten, forcing us to clean up his own mess. Well, I don't really mind it, for we at least got something out from him. Case in point, Izuku Midoria. The teen only kept on scratching his neck as he recalled the problem child. A little bit pissed, if one were to look closely at his demeanor, but nonetheless, he's grinning inside as he signaled some certain black figures to be on their way. I wonder if the heroes would arrive on time, to know that ambulance is carrying the hero killer. Well, not like it would matter anyway. One less liability, another less pawn. That'll further their efforts in finding out the whereabouts of that kid, for us on the other hand. Karujiri, if you may. The teen signaled once more as the black mist engulfed the teen and itself, finally about to leave the area, but not before the teen himself saying his last words for the hero killer. Goodbye, Stain. You did your part. Although we may not have meet because of circumstances, still, we did get something out of you, and it seems that we won't be needing you at all because of it. He ended with smirk on his face. Walking alone as his consciousness kept on drifting from time to time. His bloodied wounds may have stopped from pouring, as his blood had already clotted long ago. Still, his state of being is not something he liked. Making his way through the narrow confines of Hosu's alleyways, Garou could only hope to find a place to rest and a place to eat. His body was already exhausted to the point of it almost shutting down. If it weren't only for the fact of his demon-like will to keep on moving, he should have already been dead by now. As he was already in a bad shape in the later days he had been here, more so of that hit squad that was sent towards him. Endeavor, he said softly as his voice was already too haggard to even try to speak. Oh, how it surprised him. He was trying to patch himself up after some time had passed, in some random abandoned store, but he did not know that bastard had such a wide area of influence in the place he was patching himself of. I'm not complaining though. I should have guessed it anyways, Garou said to himself as he's closing the end of the alleyway he took. I could have demolished all of them, but the bastards were too afraid. Garou scorned as he kept on moving, finally meeting the outside of the alleyway, finding himself between a rather small family restaurant and some pharmacy by the looks of it. Really though, at least those A-class heroes still went towards the front lines when they faced me. But that Endeavor guy was kinda smart. Already taking me by surprise, he also learned to keep his distance from me. The same goes with that army of his. Still, if I were only fully healed, I could have blitzed every last one of them. This time, Garou grinned at the thought as he slowly made his way inside the pharmacy first. Him, looking around the vicinity as he made sure no one is there to see him snatch a couple of bandages and painkillers on his way. I really hate stealing, but I have no other choice for now. Garou inhaled inwardly as he got all that he needed and sneakily passed through the pharmacy's door, as the people inside did not even notice him. After getting the medical supplies he needed, Garou went around to find a store selling some bags. Well, it's not like he's planning to buy any of them, but he does need at least one small bag for his loot. It only took him just a little bit more of a walk northward to find such a store, then sneakily stole a small bag and moved his way back from that small family restaurant he saw earlier. TSK, I really hate doing this kinds of stuff, but there's no point in me worrying much on it. For I need to do this, Garou said to himself as he looked at the front doors of the small family restaurant, finally making up his mind to do a dine and dash. It's not pretty, but what can I do? Unless I find a forest anytime soon, to get my own food. This is what I'm stuck with. Garou sighed as he entered the restaurant. Inside, he saw an old couple. TSK. Again, he reminded himself of the reason on why he needs to do such a thing, for he was already losing himself the more he stays in such a condition. Still, it's not something Garou himself would like to do, especially with two old couples. I'll repay you two once I healed, hopefully, he said to himself, and as for what he'll repay them, it isn't money, that's for sure, but finding bears in the forest would do. Basically meat for meat, Garou thought, as he would pay that exact thing for all the meals he would intake. It took almost half an hour, but because of such amount of food he has taken, the old couple could only look at him with bewilderment and surprise, not even able to think much on what they had witnessed in their time with the lad. Having his fill, though, Garou is now given the chance to run to his own dismay. I really hate to do this to you two, but ciao. With that, Garou ran away as fast as he can from the couple, not even turning back. Unknown to Garou, though, the two didn't even notice him leave, because of such a shock the old lovebirds were in. Never in my day have I seen such a kid be able to eat such amount of food, the old man said, as his wife could only nod to such. Having ran a marathon, though, Garou managed to find himself a clearing within the borders of Hosu, a clearing in which it's just a straight road towards a forest. Lucky me, I guess, Garou snickered to himself, finally finding a place where he would not be bothered. At least, not for now, as the feeling of being watched was still there for the hunter. I'll take care of him sooner or later, Garou inwardly said as rushed through the forest, leaving the sight of those that were watching him. It took about half the day's time, but he did it. Garou, now in the middle of the woods, found himself a good place to set up camp, something in which he was already accustomed to. Finally, now I just gotta find a water stream. Saying those words, Garou calmed his mind as it increased his own senses, mostly hearing, that is. It was only after a minute of listening to the music of the wilderness that at last, he found a flowing stream of water just a couple miles away from his spot. Amazing, if one were ever to put it. Using his senses alone, Garou found a source of water through only listening. Such a feat is already extraordinary, to say the least. After a bit of preparations and fixing up camp, Garou, with the medical supplies he took, went towards the running water just a couple miles away, though it wasn't really that long to walk towards, but for Garou himself, something was bothering him as he approached his destination. It wasn't really something that he had any problem of just a couple of hours ago, but because he's finally able to calm down and rest his muscles as he walked. His mind just kept on messing with him, as if it's forcing him to recall something in which, in a pit of rage, Garou lost control. Silence only whispered as he walked. Only then did Garou finally give in and let those memories come bit by bit. A cold sense of fright and danger came towards the hunter's body, as an ever-familiar voice came out from his own thoughts. Garou, why have you followed the wrong path? The voice said. It was old and it was in pain. An ever-familiar voice it was for Garou, and even a more familiar sting made its way throughout his body. It's catching up, huh? Garou said as the pain that he clogged out of his senses finally reached its way towards him. Well, no sense in hiding it. With a cough, the hunter hold his body together as the pain will soon reach its zenith. Water. That's the last word he said before fighting against a certain cyborg, his body only wanting water, but then was forced to fight once more. The feeling of excitement, adrenaline, and the rush of bloodlust was truly something. If it isn't for those factors, and more with the skill and discipline he learned from a certain old man, he wouldn't be even able to stand against such a beast of a hero. Still, he knows for the fact that he can't win that battle, for the cyborg himself was only toying with him from the start. If Genos' words towards him does not say it, then the cyborg's action does. The demon cyborg, as he was called, from the very start, he didn't even consider him as a threat, even more so as a monster. Garou even scorned the cyborg that day for treating him as trash when he was caught by surprise from the cyborg's own arm. An arm in which held him in place just enough towards a tree, and just enough for the two of them to have a little chat. A chat in which pissed Garou even more. For that time, he was still being treated as an insignificant speck by the so-called S-class heroes. And it may be because of that he managed to break free of his binds, as his pure hatred of such heroes only fueled his body to keep on going. Until he came at least. Water. Once more, Garou said as he finally reached his destination, it'll only just take a couple more steps as he reached for the stream of water flowing along the scenery. Water. Yes, he now remembers. Water stream rock's smashing fist, Ryujui Ganzaken, as it was called. The martial art in which that old man taught him long ago. Bang was his name. Garou could only chuckle as the memory of the old man finally reached its course towards that stubborn head of his. He never really wanted to fight the old man. He was his master and all, and the man himself that took him in when his own sorry of an excuse of parents could not. He was in some cases his savior too. But why? Why did things turn out as it did? Why did Bang, his master, his guardian, his father, why did he choose to become a hero? To become this so-called Silver Fawn? Was it because he too was the same as them? Those that crushed the weak just like him? Just like that time with his old classmates? That time with the teachers that blamed him, scolded him? Or just like his own parents that didn't even care for him? Parents that didn't even take the side of their own child? It pisses me off. Garou's inner self yelled out, but his body that was already accepting the pain could only rest itself towards the ground, both knees touching the dirt as his arms kept his upper body from fully reaching the soil. So he crawled, slowly but surely as his head reached the water he so desperately searching. Water. Garou's mind said once more, only to remember the tears of his master falling down his own face. I died, he said to himself, as the realization also made his eyes water, but not enough to fully cover his sight. Garou just finally accepted it, as he looked towards his own reflection being refracted from the clear, flowing water. It was not him, not even he recognizes the face, for it was not someone he knows of, and not someone that he is. Closing his hands into a fist, only then did he also realize why. Why on earth did he need to be that brutal? Well, to answer that, he only needed to look in himself, for he was angered in a sense that even he could not control it. Cause such phrases as to always stay calm in battle and not get angered is such full of crap that he does not agree upon it with all his being. If you have anger, use it. Don't crap about things like staying calm in battle. Use your damn anger, as it'll be your greatest asset, your greatest tool to fuel yourself through and through. But still, that doesn't mean you should go out of control because of it. No, you should not. For one thing is true about anger, and it's that when you can't control it, only then you're more of a liability to others and to your own self. That's why people keep on saying to be calm. Even though it won't give you as much as being angered, still he questioned once more. Why? Garou only bowed his head at this thought, closing his eyes as reflected more and more, even though such an act is something he didn't like to do, more so during the days when he was training with his master. He took in a breath, then out. This was something that was not thought upon to the other students, other than him at least. A type of technique, so to call it, that only a few knows of it. And those that did were already dead after witnessing it. It was made for combat mostly, but it didn't hurt to use it in meditation. And so, it helped a lot. A lot as in the pain finally subsided because of it as Garou's mind finally flowed like the calm stream right before his eyes. He was at fault, that's the reason why. It was his own refusal of his own death, his own failure, that caused such an anger that even he could not control. He could only say sorry for that kid he almost killed, not so much on that murderer, but still. He was to be blamed for it, and he accepts it. Nothing can be done now. What's done is done. That was Garou's final words for the day, as he looked once more at his own reflection. Then using his own hands, he washed his face in water, then his arms. Then removing the tattered clothes away from his body, he entered the flowing stream of water, naked, until after a couple of time passed. Garou went out of the water, cleaned of the dried blood he had, and the scorch marks that was present before, only leaving the scars it left. Garou sighed as he walked out of the water, taking the medical supplies he took with him, in which he patched himself up. Only then did he wear his tattered clothes, minus the t-shirt, for it was in all sense almost unusable to be called as such, leaving his upper body exposed with the bandages he covered it with. Just like the time he was in that cursed shed. He only let out a chuckle at that, but then only silence. For Garou now knows the general gist of his own predicament. He does not know how, and he does not know why, but there is one thing that is certain. He needs to gather information in which he needs to gather his bearings, and to know wherever the hell he is now. More so to know of the heroes in this strange place he has landed himself into, intentional or not. And so, Garou walked once more, back towards his makeshift camp. He only needs to rest for a bit, and after that, he'll basically be back in full health. So, grinning with those pearly whites, Garou can't wait to start his hunt once more. He may have failed back then, but now he'll make sure to finish where he started. And so, it didn't take long for him to find out where his target was laying about. Through his connections all around Japan, just the day after they got the green light on commencing their hunt. On the 4th and 5th day, Endeavor finally found where Izuku Midoria was at the same time, made do of a plan to subdue the young lad. And yet, with all the information he got, all the resources he went through, all the planning, and all the advice he gave towards his absolute unit of a hit squad, having some that aren't even licensed, rather, more under the radar. Even with all that, how? Just how? He questioned, for the result that came from it wasn't even something he would have considered. One look was all it took, a look in which dumbfounded an entire battalion of heroes, a look that screamed danger and death, one look of a monster. Yes, that truly was all it took. Those eyes with a darkened scara on its left counterpart, the same eyes that have different colors on its iris, yellow on its right as red on its left. Just what the hell are they? Those eyes of a predator, eyes of a monster, and more so as the eyes of fear itself. Endeavor can't give any answer to that. The same goes with the battalion of heroes he took with him to subdue the villain in a teen's clothing. They just can't fathom it, can't process it, can't even believe it. They had the target hook, line, and center. But how? How in God's name can such a thing exist? They don't know, nay, they don't want to know. It wasn't even a child anymore, wasn't even a student that they gathered information off. It was more than that. It was a monster incarnate. The ambush they had set, the ambush that they had planned, the ambush in which was supposed to put the kid down was nothing but a complete and utter failure. They just can't accept it, can't acknowledge such a bizarre, crazy, and outright insane of an outcome. They kept their distance as they were told. They continued their attack without giving any rest for the target. They did every single thing by the damn book. And yet, still, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to injure him at all. It wasn't enough to make him stop his movement. It wasn't even enough to stop that everlasting grin of his. Infuriating, stressful, and aggravating for all of them. It's like he was taunting them, making fun of them, playing them like fools. That kid, that teen with his demon of a face, he isn't normal, he isn't the same. If it were any other villain, any other person, and even any other All Might and the likes of him. In 01, they repeated in chorus in their minds. In 01 should be able to be like that. It was unfair. Even All Might, the #1 hero, would agree to their thoughts if asked. Those injuries he took prior from the engagement, and more so with that one and only direct hit they managed to land towards him. Endeavor's own Hellfire arrow. But just how? They questioned. On all fours, he moved, and all four he dodged, evaded, blocked, redirected, countered, pursued, and even more than that. If only they were not told to keep their distance. That ambush, if it can even be called as such, it would have failed. No, it will have failed even more so than it already did with them knowing to back off from that thing. Just what the hell was he? In unison, they asked. The hit squad, the very heroes that Endeavor took to subdue that kid. He's a monster. Plain and simple, Endeavor said to the lot, as he made his way out of the same place they had ambushed Izuku Midoria, Garou. You may all leave, he ended as he reached outside the abandoned shop. The sun, setting on the horizon, as the broken pavement all throughout the vicinity showed itself, with dozens upon dozens of broken cement that lay waste on the area, more so as the inner center of the building he was in moments earlier. He took the soil beneath him, the cement, the dirt, or simply the earth itself. He threw them, all of them, but none of us knew the true reason for it. At first, it was to block our assault, but as time went by, the more he grew accustomed to it, to us. Endeavor began to reminisce the scene over and over again in his mind. Methodically he moved, patient he waited, and for each passing moment, he analyzed our timings, our attacks, our moves. Not even the top of the villain hierarchy could do such, but he knew it did. The boulders he threw weren't just for cover, but also a path in which he can be both protected from our barrage while running, as well as blocking our path to catch him escape. With a grunt, and an ever-rising temperature where he stood, Endeavor then took his leave, but not before destroying the evidence of their failure to capture Izuku Midoria. Midoria, was it? Or if that's who you really are. I'll make sure, one day, I'll make you pay, even if it means killing you by my hands. He ended. A week has now gone by since the incident that happened during the sports festival at UA High. Now, just after a long and overdue conference between those that are in question responsible for fixing such a mess. Two main personalities were the ones asked to come, rather than those with a badge. The two in which that had an impact towards a certain boy, and the two that's currently on their way. Inside the home of a mother in disbelief, All Might and Eraserhead have come to ask a few questions. It's almost dusk. Don't you think it's a bit late for us to ask young Midoriya's mother about all of this? All Might asked Eraserhead as they come nearer at the Midoriya household. Well, we could have been here sooner if it weren't for that meeting with those detectives, though it is true that during this time, it's less optimal to meet someone that has lost a loved one, but still, it needs to be done, All Might. Eraserhead responded as they have now reached the front door of Midoriya's home. Well, you're right on that part. Then if you don't mind, let me take the initiative on this one. Eraserhead only nodded as All Might knocked on the door, then asking for a certain mother to come out. Mrs. Inko Midoriya, are you there? This is All Might. And well, Eraserhead, we're the teachers of your son, young Izuku Midoriya. We're here on behalf of your request to meet and talk to us, rather than the fine gents in blue. Would you let us in, ma'am? He ended as he knocked one more time. It took about a minute as the noise of footsteps came near and a door unlocking in a rather slow manner. Then it took another minute as the same footsteps wither out from one's hearing, while a rather soft and somewhat defeated whim of a voice came out. Come in. There was no strength to that voice, barely even hearable, but even so, both of the two heard it and knew that young Midoriya's mother might not be in a good shape. And so with that in mind, the two braced themselves as they went inside, expecting for the worst. Coming inside, the hallway was dim, the atmosphere cold, as a soft light was lit within the dining area. That's probably where Mrs. Midoriya went, the two thought as they continue forth. But the thing that they saw, even when prepared for the worst, it's still disturbing for the eyes of the two heroes. There on the other side of the dining table, a woman, still having a little bit of thickness, yet clearly has signs of malnourishment. Having long, messy dark green hair. There she stood as her eyes glared at the two, while bits of red from the side of the scara can be seen, add with the darkened eye bags near it. Sleep deprivation, stress, and insomnia. All that went straight to the minds of the two as they rationalize on what might be the probable causes of such state. But that was just focusing on her upper half. By looking at her entire figure, a mess is the only thing that could be derived from it. Inko Midoriya, the mother of Izuku Midoriya, was more like a walking zombie at such a state. It's now clear for the two how much damage it caused when Izuku, her son, became something that even they don't know what. A failure on their side as for them. Such a thing could have been prevented. In All Might's case, he cursed the one that could have easily caused such suffering. But in all honesty, that isn't even near the whole truth. While Eraserhead, on the other hand, could only blame a bit of himself, being the one in charge of Class 1A, which also means keeping students like Izuku Midoriya in check. Even now he questions himself on what truly did go wrong, and if he could have prevented it in some way or another. But then again, it's no longer of use to dwindle about the past now. Now is the time they need to take action in the present and plan for the upcoming future. Starting first at making sure of Mrs. Midoriya's health and knowing anything at all, that she can offer. Information, habits, unusual behaviors, and more. So, as the two nodded to each other and start the conversation, they were silenced as it was not they which would start it, but rather, it was her. Inko's eyes became sharper than anything that two has seen, her eyes as if judging them. As it looked straight through their souls, the air tightened more and more as the brooding mother began to speak. "What did you two do? What did you do?" she said in an uneasy, soft tone. "What do you mean, Mrs. Midder?" "I said, what did you two do?" Inko yelled on top of her lungs as her quirk then activated in such a way that for all the years that had gone by, never had it became as such. Knives within the kitchen begun to float as the other furniture began to levitate as well. All pointed towards the two. Just this action alone made the two quiver in fear, but also ready to stop the woman before she does something she would regret. It was also this moment that Eraserhead was about to activate his quirk as All Might was ready to get a hold on Mrs. Midoriya, but before they could do anything at all, the tense cold air has then begun to dissipate as the utensils, knives, and other wares that were being manipulated by Inko's quirk begun to drop, as well as Inko herself. A clear sign of exhaustion, anger, and distress. All Might was quick with his feet, as before Inko fell alone with those dangerously close knives near her back, All Might took her body and slowly put it down near a soft chair. With all the tension dying out, Inko, with her soft and haggard voice, asked once again, "What did you do to my son?" She ended as her body passed out and her eyes closing, still breathing, but her health deteriorating as time went on. The two, being fast to respond, quickly took Mrs. Midoriya to a nearby hospital, where she is to recover as time passes by. The presumed questioning about one of the probable costs of what may be the change in young Midoriya's character, gone in an instant, as the two were only left with questions themselves. Inko Midoriya, the mother of Izuku Midoriya, even she does not know why. If her words and action towards them were not enough for that, then her reaction definitely is. Just what could have been truly been the cause? That question still remains a mystery, not just for the heroes, but for also the dark within the light, the villains in waiting. Now at the present day, a total of a week and a half, or maybe two, in which Garou estimated. His wounds finally healed as he wakes from his makeshift bed, letting a bit of the cool breeze of morning air pass all throughout his body. Garou, with a rather sluggish, yet still flow-like movement, stood up. This body really needs to stretch more and be more flexible. Garou grumbled as he stretches his body, then proceeded to lament on what to do on that day. Information maybe? Food. So I can repay those two old couples? Find out what those freaks want from me. Or maybe just hunt a few heroes along the way, to see how well they match with those that I'm familiar of. To hell to think that this place is the same as where I came from, and to hell that I died just before reaching my goal. Heste. Garou then stopped that line of thought as he took in a breath. You're such a pain, you know that, right? Old man. As Garou's mind cleared, he then took consideration of the now rather than then. He noticed the area was like one of those mountainous ranges from city to city from where he once came from. Taking note of the scenery and land, Garou took notice of at least one mountain that in his current area was the highest point. Huh. Never skip your morning jog. Isn't that what you would say, you old geezer? Reminiscing once more on the brutal training that his master gave them, Garou walked towards the foot of that mountain. And so, after a bit of time walking around, finally reaching his destination, the hunter began to limber himself up for that morning jog. With a deep breath, Garou moved at such incomprehensible speeds that for the naked eye alone, He seems to have vanished as footmarks begun to exist out of nowhere. And so, if one would wonder, can that even be called a jog? In Garou's standards, yes. But in this world, no. It only took a couple of minutes, but finally at the very top, Garou made it. Though the body of the young man he's in. I need to train. Garou grumbled to himself as he then proceeded to make another makeshift area for himself. An area where he would strengthen the weak body he's in. It took almost half of the day's worth, but the training ground he made for himself was complete. After stretching a bit more, Garou then proceeded to do the same training he once did during his time with his old master. Starting with building his endurance once again, as well as the nimbleness or the agility this body needed as a prerequisite in performing the art that his master taught him. To lift a boulder the size of a 2-story building would already be an insane task to be given to a child, but to carry twice the amount. Now that's just insane. Though that being said, it's also something not even All Might would like Izuku to do, more so without the power of One for All. But Garou, on the other hand, he was no other kid, even back then when he was being trained by Bang. Through his will to become stronger, even the top disciples of Bang at that time were outshined by him, envied, and more. For all that happened, for everything that was given to him, as well as the care and love the old man gave to him. And even though the whole truth of why that incident happened during those times was never known, even for Bang himself. On Garou's side, he knows. Just already when he first started his training under Bang, the creator of and master of the flowing water rock smashing fist. Those that came before him didn't take him kindly. At the back of their master's shadow, those upperclassmen, those first that came before Garou, hated that he was given such a good treatment by their master, and so, many of them purposely did heinous acts upon Garou, making it harder and harder for the young boy to climb towards his goal, and yet, they unknowingly made something they would regret in the future. At this time of his life, Garou knows that he won't be given an ear even if he were told what they were doing, though, that's only on his mind, but who can blame him? His childhood was already shit as he was given a clear idea that only those with power are the ones that'll always win, and the ones that'll always be given a voice to hear. He, on the other hand, was not, and so, he never told anything of it towards Bang, and for the upperclassmen, they thought it was because he's scared, and just kept on making things worse and worse for him. They thought they can break him and that he won't fight back, but they were wrong. Time went by as Garou kept on getting stronger and stronger, to the point that during one of their spars, none of them would even want to have a go with Garou. As the sense of fear begun to climb up their spines while their former Kohai was given more praise and worth from their master, that they expected him to burst out of them at that point on. But that point where even their master thought that he would be the next prodigy of the art, he didn't. They thought they were in the clear, they thought he won't do anything against them, they thought that he may have forgiven them, just like how their master would. They thought. At the time when Bang accepted the offer to become a hero, at the time when he was out and they were training alone with Garou, that was the time they got what they deserved. A chosen few of them got an ear full from Garou, while the rest were casualties of their transgression towards him throughout the years. The way he broke them, the way he made sure that none of them will ever come back. There was a reason why Sharanko was the only one left in Bang's dojo, and there was a reason why no one came back, even after Garou was kicked out by Bang himself. And that reason was that day alone, a day of infamy for them, while for Garou, a solemn day of the only person he once trusted, becoming something he distastes and has sworn to hunt. A hero. Time went by as Garou had these thoughts, him not even realizing that the body he's in had already grown accustomed to the pain and suffering it had been enduring all day long. The gruesome training he did has now paid off, but it was also something that he fonder about his new body. Taking a rest for that day, he once again took note of his surroundings. Destroyed and uprooted trees, pulverized boulders, broken and split earth. From all of that, it was a sight to behold. All of it done in a day's worth of training. But it's the after that Garou now needs to take note of. As his body now grown accustomed to the damages he can go through, tomorrow was now the time for him to refine his martial art. Ryujui Ganzaken, Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist. And so, after a long night's rest, Garou once again kept on doing his training over and over again. no longer keeping track of the time that has gone by since his arrival at such a world. From the days, maybe weeks, or probably months that had gone by. No one knows of where he was. No one knows of the place he had been training. As only the distant rumblings of earth-shattering sounds were left from the training Garou has been going through. It may have been easy for Garou to perfect his master's martial art, but without a proper opponent or a primer of sorts to get him farther. A few of the following weeks that had gone by was wasted on him, just focusing and remembering the last time he fought with his sensei, making an image in his mind of his master as he fought against it over and over again. But no matter how fluid and near-perfect his movements have gotten, even in his mind, he still cannot beat the old man. It angered him as his form grew fiercer and fiercer, and the air around Garou's hand whistled as if turbines of the fastest plane ever created by man was near. Still, once again, even with his anger, even with his discipline, and along with his training, the image in his mind, the old man in front of him, he still could not beat him. I'll be damned that they say you're a hero. You're more of a monster than I am, Garou inwardly said to the imaginary bang in front of him, only then to stop for a moment and take calm on his frustrations. Silence began to reign once more, as Garou once again continued to his training, a training in which no one would even believe if they saw. To see a man do such feats is already inconceivable, but to see a kid, a teen, though it is Garou that's now residing within such a body, it's still beyond belief to believe that such a physique of a young teen could handle the strains of his training. It'll be even more so unbelievable if it were to be seen by the former master of the boy's body. All might if it were him. Just to think that he's in the same body as the teen that can barely use the entirety of One for All. It's ludicrous, but somehow, someway, as if like his original body when fighting those S-class heroes, it also has affected this young boy's entire being. The body in which the boy named Izuku Midoria, now in the hands of a true warrior, a true fighter, a true worthy successor, is now slowly strengthening, hardening, and shaping itself to compensate with such intense forms and various movements that it's being forced upon. The kicker about this fact, though unknown to the naked eye, the body that Garou's currently shaping didn't break even once. Compare that when it's being used by Izuku Midoriya, it's just strange and somewhat unclear as to why. Maybe, just maybe, the body was accepting the pain, the struggles, and the pressures of Garou's regime, unlike with the usage of One for All. And if it does, what could this mean? Why would it like that? Is it because the body never really wanted powers in the first place? But that would be something far-fetched and stupid to assume. But then again, it's Garou we're talking about, a man that has no such thing of a mindset that's like with the former owner of the body. For on his side of things, as his quote to Terio, if you don't want to get bossed around or mocked by the people around you, you just need to be stronger. And hence, the mindset that one needs powers to become something that person wants won't be taken lightly with how Garou visions strength. So once again, as if the body didn't conform with the ideology of having powers/quirks to become strong, to become something it could be even without it. Maybe that's the cause for the weakness it had back then. A weakness that, unlike with the other successors that didn't have any of those fallbacks, no breaking of bones, no discoloration, no nothing. Maybe now on Garou's case, being the new owner of the body, just maybe. Unlike with the mentality of becoming something, like a hero, that needs quirks/powers, disregarding other ways to become stronger. Maybe that's why? Maybe, because of another person's point of view about strength and how to achieve it, to take it, to form it, and to make it his. Maybe, the body was just opposed to the thought of becoming something with an attribute it doesn't have. Maybe it's because of this, a different view, a different use, and a different user. To strengthen oneself, it doesn't need to be through special means. It doesn't need to be something it isn't, rather. It just needs to be something it can be, and will be, through hard work. Isn't that how Garou became this strong? Bullied and treated as the weak one in society, made to be the monster, the loser, the powerless. In a society where those with power truly shine more than those without, and those without, just like what happened to Garou. Thrown on the sidelines as they're branded as the weak and pitiful, something insignificant at the end of all things. It angers him. even when he fought a certain demon cyborg. Exactly like that. He was treated as if he were just some common trash, a crook that's been hunting heroes out of a false sense of thought. Yet they don't know. None knows truly on why he started such crusade against heroes. Though the answer to that, can it really be answered simply? For Garou from another time, another world, another place, against a bald hero. For him, it was true and unbiased justice that he sought for, where people that were given power can no longer trample down on those without, and so, he'll be the primer of such a world where all will fear him, at the same time, a world that will no longer have hierarchies, for all would be too busy becoming one to stop his reign of terror. But how about now? This circumstance he's in, this body, this world. If that's still the goal Garou sought for, then it's still far from reality. Maybe that's why he's training more and more, even though it's not going as fast and as far as he had hoped. But that's the only thing in his mind that he could do for now. He could hunt heroes once again, yet having little to no information about the world he's in, plus the fact that he already started his training. Then to perfect the art that his master taught him is currently his priority, to finish something that he had started long ago. Though, there could be another thing he could take priority of. For the days he had been training in this area, Garou knew that at least a person would notice, even if it were in some high mountain in the middle of the woods. The amount of destruction he's been doing with his training, and the fact that he's not far off from a distant city, as well as managing to see some sort of a private camp. It was only a matter of time for one to come in and see what he'd been doing. It didn't bother him, though. If it were a hero, he would just beat the hero to a point where she wouldn't be able to speak of what they saw. Same could be said with a civilian. But that's if they're stupid enough to come up a mountain filled with giant bears and wolves. It would be laughable if one ever did yet. Out of all the possibilities of who will come and check him out, to see a young boy braving it out, he can't help but be surprised at the risk that the boy took. Garou gave a phantom nod on the kid's bravery as he was still doing his stances at that point in time. The boy didn't know he was already spotted from a mile away, even though he was covered by the flora near the area. It only took a bit more time as Garou finished his day's worth of training. Now though, with a grin, he vanished. Confused and rather startled by what just happened, as the teen in the eyes of the boy just vanished without rhyme or reason, the kid uncertain on what to do and worried on what might happen if stayed for longer in an area with him alone, he then hurried back at a certain camp near the mountainous area. Maybe this will be the day Garou will get the information he needs. Plus, he's good with kids. Though that's only what he thinks, the only kid that he ever had any interaction with was none other than that bowl-cut hairstyle with a bald spot of a kid named Terrio.